Welcome everyone to the March 18th Hartland Selectboard meeting. This is our first meeting after town meeting. I want to welcome our new colleague, Trace Tancredi. Welcome, Trace. Before we get going on the regular business, we have organizational items to do. And the first is the election of chair and vice chair.
I'm sorry, just point of order. Are we? Oh, wow. This doesn't look like it's on. This is all late.
There's nothing up there.
That's not working today, but yeah.
Thank you, Joe. What's with the
Anything in the chat saying they can't hear you?
No, nothing in the chat.
Is anybody in?
There are a few people, we have a few people online.
Grace, what's up with the screen there?
The TV just died. I tried to fiddle with it for 20 minutes and it didn't.
Okay, then we're relying on you guys.
Yeah.
See if we raised hands and everything. Okay, thanks, Jim, for the catch. Okay, our first order of business before the normal business or the election of officers, meeting day and time, newspapers, etc. So we have to elect a chair and a vice chair. So I would ask for nominations for the position of chair.
I move Phil Hobby
I'll
for
second.
chair.
I'll second.
Are there any other nominations?
I guess we should ask if Tom would want to continue as vice chair.
Let's
We're gonna do them one at a time, I believe.
Let's hit,
Okay.
so then a motion to elect Mr. Hobby as chair. I would entertain a motion.
Well,
We have a,
just
we have-
just for
So
the
you can just close the nomination and then you do the motion.
Okay,
yeah. So we have a motion on the table, right?
no, we have
No, we have nominations.
Okay. So help me with the procedure.
So then the next part is you say, hearing no other nominees, I close.
Okay.
Actually, you shouldn't be doing it because you're chair. So
Okay.
John should take this role on temporarily for nominations of chair,
sure,
and then you elect the chair.
sure. So there's a nomination in a second for Phil as chair of the select board for the upcoming year. Is there any other discussion?
Well, no other nomination.
No other nominations?
Right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's for nominations.
Nominations, right. And then we would do a motion to approve
Right,
Phil as
right,
chair.
Right.
Okay.
So
So I make a motion to nominate, not nominate, but to, actually, we close. Okay, to elect Phil as chair
I'll
of
second.
the forthcoming fiscal year.
there's a motion from Tom and a second from Jim for the motion to elect Phil as chair of the select board for the upcoming year. All those in favor?
Aye.
No discussion?
Oh, sorry,
You don't discuss nominations.
this was the motion.
Yeah, no discussion.
Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations. You're back.
You're back.
Okay. John, would you take care of asking for nominations for
No,
vice chair?
Nope.
you do it now.
You're-
because you're
you're-
chair.
now you're back in charge.
Now you're back in charge. That's how it works.
Nice try.
Nice
But
try.
you're the chair.
I'd like to nominate Tom Kennedy as vice chair.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations for vice chair?
Well, I'll second Tom.
Okay. Can I get a motion to close nominations? I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to elect Tom as vice chair.
I'll make a motion to elect Tom as vice chair.
Great. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Trace. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Congratulations, Tom. Okay.
All those who don't volunteer, take one step backwards.
Okay, John, do you want to step through the other items there?
Sure, so,
We technically have to elect a clerk.
I was like, do you need a clerk too? Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, you still need,
even if she takes minutes, we
right,
still have to.
you need an official clerk as well, so you gotta go through the nomination process for a clerk. Currently, I believe,
I think we did that last year, but that's.
currently, I think Mr. Riley is the clerk,
Oh,
clerk of the board.
Okay.
2 years running, it's like a prison sentence.
He's in the remedial program. So
We're bringing
I
him
nom-
along slowly.
I
it's fine.
nominate Jim Riley as clerk
And I'll
for,
quickly second the nomination. Anyone want to close the nominations? I'll close the nominations. I would entertain a motion to have Jim serve as clerk.
so moved.
A second?
A second.
Thank you, Trace. All in favor, say aye.
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 So Clyde's the only one not on the SOL. Those
Okay.
PSL.
Okay. Good catch on the clerk. Okay.
Okay. So a few other organizational items. There's a meeting day and time. Currently, you're meeting first and third Monday of every month at 5:30 downstairs at Damon Hall. If there's a holiday on a Monday, the meeting is postponed until the following Tuesday. Any changes to that?
No.
Okay. Newspaper of record is the Valley News.
Okay.
Continue with the Valley News as the newspaper of record.
Do we need?
Do we need to, I think, do we want to approve them individually?
Yeah, let's just do consensus.
Okay, so we'll go through the rest of them and then just do one group motion. Physical location of meeting notices. So they get posted on the website, they get posted at Mike's, and they get posted at the North Hartland Post Office.
It should be upstairs.
And, yeah, sorry, and in Damon Hall, sorry. So 3 locations and online on the website. Changes to that? Great. And then you have the rules of procedure in your packet, which will need to be signed by everybody. I have a copy that I can pass around for signature if you would prefer.
Okay. And next time, can we take away the VLCT model rules?
Yes.
It is based on that. But,
We can strike that footer from it moving forward.
okay. I did go through my files today, and that's pretty much what we agreed to last year.
But I'm assuming this is the one we used last year.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, correct.
So just out of curiosity, do we have to reapprove this every year, or do we only approve it if we make changes to it?
Well, you'd have to approve the meeting day, the newspaper, and the location of the meeting minutes. So we could do those 3, and then you just have to sign the rules of procedure.
Every year,
Yeah,
regardless.
Because it's a new board.
because it's a new board, right?
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to accept those 4 items that we just talked about. Do I have to spell them out?
Also move.
Okay. A second,
Second.
all in favor of the meeting time, newspaper, physical location of the meeting, and the rules and procedures, say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
I think, do we also have to state nowadays whether we're gonna do hybrid or whatever, as far as our meeting?
I do not know the answer to that question.
I think at some point we're supposed to say that.
In the organizational
I
process.
don't know.
I can,
I'm just causing trouble.
I can find out, and if we need
I
to,
think it's referenced. You could check the VLCT.
yeah,
Select Board handbook. I think there's a reference in there that you can be hybrid, but if you're doing votes, you need to do a roll call to make sure the person on the video is heard.
right. Right.
So you
And-
can double check that.
I'll double check, and if we need
I
to,
think some are in person only and others are hybrid. And
if we need to,
so I don't, yeah.
if we need to have it on the agenda at the next meeting.
Yeah.
It'll be there.
Right. Okay, then moving on, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from February 20th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Clyde. In the Cheyenne, in the executive session, I think it was Tom made a motion to enter into, because Jim was not here.
Correct.
Yeah. So, okay, other comments? Clyde, you're all set?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom, you're set? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes pass. I would entertain a motion to accept the orders or accounts payable through today, March 18th.
So moved.
Thank you, Clyde. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion?
I was just wondering, that blue capital one, is that Auditor? They sell floor jacks for $800?
So Northern Tool goes through all the shops.
Oh, okay.
All right. That's like the drop-off site?
We order Northern Tool, it comes through that.
Really? Because I get it at my house.
Okay.
Where's your brass pole and the light? That was at Home Depot. Here's and maintenance. Yep, there's brass pole and light.
$32.
Where are you?
Let's see, account
Page
1003.
February 15th. Oh, no. that's
1003, 3705, 30.
Oh, that's the sensor light at the on the red barn. So somebody broke into the red barn last fall,
Yeah,
and we had no sensor lights whatsoever, so we had a sensor light installed now.
okay. So they can see what they're doing.
That's right.
We don't want them hurting themselves.
Yeah.
When we get sued, at least we can say they saw what they were doing.
Martin, it's pretty scary that we give you the name and you didn't know it, but we give you the number and you knew it.
I know.
That's not good, Martin.
Quickly,
We're gonna start bringing them outside.
Well, yeah.
Get them a little fresh air.
quickly moving on, because I don't want to see anything change there. Martin, John, the Martinsville Hydro payments, does that reflect the new contract we expanded?
Does.
Okay. Is it the activity center that's new? or-
Garage is on there.
Garage is on there. Okay, great. And is the payment to VLCT for the property and casualty, is that an annual payment?
Quarterly. They went to quarterly last year.
Okay,
It used to be annually, they changed it to quarterly last year.
okay. And my last question is the payment to the Windsor County Sheriff. There's a number of dates here. Are those just two periods? There's 3/8, 3/18, 2/1/2, 29, 20. I don't know.
I think it's the month of February
Okay.
And part of March.
and part
In
of
part of
March.
March, right.
Of March.
So
Okay.
2/1 to 2/29, 3/8 to 3/18.
Okay. And again, we're contractually just paying them
As we asked them to do.
as we ask them. Okay,
Through-
so it's-
through March.
So they are, right, so through the end of March, that's all
Right.
I did at my time.
Okay,
So we need to talk about whether we want to continue with the Windsor County Sheriff through April, May, and June prior to,
before any contractual pieces that we
Correct.
have for the new year. Okay.
Sounds like we need a future agenda item
Yes,
yep,
to do. the leasing
absolutely.
Contract.
Yep.
And roughly how many hours is this? Do we know?
40 hours a week, 6 weeks. That's not, I don't think that's the full 6 weeks, but I gave him, last fall, I gave him 6 weeks for February and March.
Okay.
Any other questions on the warrants? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Moving on to adjustments to the agenda. do we have any adjustments to the agenda? No, great. And then are there any public comments?
We're all looking at you, Sherry.
Is there anyone?
There's no comments online.
Okay. Good. Okay, old business. John's going to start with a general discussion on the committees and commissions. There's just a number of things that we want to make sure that we're all in sync on, especially the process where someone would apply online and how someone would get on a commission or committee.
So a couple things. One, it's my understanding the Energy Committee has officially been dissolved. There is no Town of Heartland Energy Committee at this point. We will put out something on the listserv like we do for other and on the website, like we do for the Conservation Commission, work with whomever, like with the Conservation Commission, work with Rob to, put a little blurb out that says, this is what you can expect to do on the board. If you're interested, we have an application form online and at the town hall. Come in, fill one out. When there's applications, we'll bring them to the board for your discussion and your appointment.
Okay.
For any committee.
For any committee, for all committees, right? I just wanted to be clear that there is no energy committee at this point in town.
But, so it's just a dumb question. When we say officially dissolved,
It's not dissolved. I was gonna say.
Sorry, there is no functioning energy committee in the town of Hartland.
Inactive.
Due to lack of membership within the committee.
Correct.
Right,
Correct.
we had 3 members resign in November or December. Hence, there was only 1 member, and so we chose to suspend it at that point. Is
yeah,
that a better word?
that's kind of like the second half of the question. Do we need to take any action to suspend it or dissolve it? Or
We did
We did.
publicly,
Oh, we did?
yeah,
I just don't remember.
yeah.
And then the other thing, it's come up a couple of times recently. I'm gonna see if we can get, whether it's an online class from VLCT or somebody wants to do an open meeting law training, making sure we're getting notices, agenda set, notices published, all in the proper amount of time so that folks can have meetings. There was an example, it was last week, the week before, where one of the commissions had to postpone a meeting because they didn't get everything done in time, basically. And then making sure we get our minutes and everything posted up to the website.
Yeah, there's information handbook on that as well.
There is.
And I don't think, like, if our meetings are scheduled for Mondays at 5:30, I don't think technically we need to do a posting. I think it's in there.
We have to post the agenda.
Right, we have to post the agenda.
2 days before.
Right.
Yes, it has to be available, right? The wording is a little bit tricky, but it
I
sounds.
think it's posted.
I think open meeting law says you have to post the agenda at 3 places throughout town. So that's what we talked about, Mike, the post office, town hall.
I understand
Yeah.
what our process is, but when I read the VLCT handbook, it sounds different.
I can, I'll check that versus there's a quick reference, like open meeting law guide as well.
Yeah.
From the Secretary of State's office, so,
And Jim, I would think just one of the best practices, if we got the agenda out there, I think that would be best to be as transparent as possible. This is what's happening.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
It's just, in the event that something happened and we didn't get it done, I'm not sure that we would have to cancel,
Okay.
so.
I think moving forward, putting them out there and then making sure that the boards and committees and commissions all know that is their responsibility.
It's the expectation.
Right, we can help, the town can help you with that, but we don't set agendas for commissions and committees and other groups.
All right. Good. And I think some of the committees and commissions are very conscious of their cycles, how many years and so on and so forth. But I do like the idea, John, of actually creating a program where we can, everyone can freshen their knowledge on these
Yep.
things.
And if there's something that exists, we can use that. If it's not, we can we can put something together for
Okay.
the chairs and the vice chairs of each of the respective groups.
Okay, I need to play devil's advocate here, and I would like to continue to use the listserv as a backup to these postings. If we feel that that's still a good way to go. An unofficial sort of kind of redundancy of the meeting.
You're just saying post the notices on this.
Just sending out a general, here's the agenda, which the committees and commissions have been doing as well in the past. But again, it's not the official record.
So we didn't put the agenda out for this meeting on the listserv until today. It just wasn't on my radar. So that's a mistake. It was posted, it was duly warned. It didn't go out on the listserv. We can, if it's the desire of the board to continue to post it, when we put it out at Mike's and then, on the website, we can put it out on the listserv as well. That's fine. Just.
Are we shaking our head? Yes.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
more is better.
Yeah, I agree.
Somebody might actually see it.
No speaking out of turn there, Mr. Peterson. Anything more, John, on the committees?
That is all for me on committees and commissions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, moving on to new business. We have a annual document that we need to sign, the certificate of the highway mileage. And I thought it was a little quiz or something, that there's actually some 6-point font on the form that had some changes.
It's very small. There are some very, very minor changes to the highway mileage in town. If you look at the form that was in your packet, it is the very tiny font in part 2, number 3 of the form, and that's related to the reconfiguration of the intersection out in front. So very insignificant changes. We sign it, we submit it to V-Trans, and it gets kept as a record here in town.
Are folks comfortable, do you understand the different 3 classes of roads that we have?
How much do we get a mile for doing all this? Do you know?
I don't know. Like state reimbursement for mileage.
Yeah, just curious.
Okay, then I would entertain a motion to accept the certificate of highway mileage for the year ending February 10th, 2024.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say
Discussion.
aye. Oh,
So the top section, does the change need to be filled in and then new totals added?
This is the form that was provided to us by the Agency of Transportation.
Right.
So when we send it back, if we need to make that adjustment, we can.
I had assumed that adjustment was made.
Right.
When they're showing, if you looked at last year.
Yes,
The .004,
Yep.
621.
that paragraph in 2.3 is the change.
Yeah.
Right, but I guess in part 1, you don't have to put that number in and subtract it.
My copy is being passed along, so I don't have it in front of me, sir. I see. So you're saying under added mileage, we should have 0.002 miles added under class 2 town highway. So we should go from 16.26 to 16.262.
But that's my question.
That's your question.
Do we
I
need
can,
to fill that in
So
to make
why don't we fill it in and then you can figure out whether you need to
right.
add
Yes.
the
Yeah.
2 feet more.
Exactly.
okay.
Or subtract, because there's also,
Yeah, right.
we lost some roads as well.
Any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none. um, I would, where am I? at? We have motions. I would entertain.
We second it.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. The next point of business is the auditor engagement letter, an annual letter stating the information that needs to lead up to the annual audit by the firm Mudgett and something.
Budget,
Oh,
Janet,
right.
Kroll.
You've got my first page.
Fair.
Mudgett, Janet, Crow, and Wisner.
Well, yes,
Glasses would help you. Okay.
So, I make a motion that we have the chair, and according to the engagement letter, it sounds like the town manager signed the engagement letter on the behalf of the town
Is there a sec-
for auditing services for FY 25.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion of the letter of engagement?
I'll just point out that these are the same auditors we've used for the past
Right.
That's,
several years.
that is correct.
The question might be, next year, not this year, but next year, do we want to switch to make sure that we're getting good information?
So municipal auditors are getting to be like hen's teeth.
Yeah.
So we went out to bid last year, and we got
No one
one
wanted
bid,
to.
one bid.
So you're saying hang on to them?
Well, you can go out to bid, but don't get them angry at you.
Yeah.
Great, so we can put out an RFP if
Yeah,
the board
And I
chooses
got
next year.
next one.
Well, I had the same question as Jim did, as we've been using these folks for all the years I've been on the board, and I don't know how much longer than that, but were there any other players?
There are, you can always do a bid.
Yeah, we can put out an RFP next year.
See what you get.
Yeah,
And I'm also, we have a new treasurer, and I want to make sure that they are aware of this engagement letter. Okay.
we'll make them aware, but there's no interplay between the treasurer and the auditor when it comes, because
Okay.
So Phil, I'm not sure if I understood your question. So,
I don't think it was a question as much as just making sure the treasurer is aware that we are engaging with this auditor to do a review of.
Yeah,
The
that's
financial
really what
documents.
since we have a new treasurer, I just want to make sure that they're aware of, if one of the responsibilities is oversight of the finances, I want to make sure that tuned
how
into
they
this.
integrate it.
Yeah, okay.
Which, I think there's VLCT training for treasurers. I'm not sure if we should refer that person.
We can,
VLCT.
as the trainings come across my desk, I have been shipping them off to the appropriate people.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Also, the Vermont Clerks and Treasurers Association runs workshops too.
Okay.
And there's one coming up in late April in Fairleigh, and another one a week later in West Rutland, if she's available.
Those I did not know about. We'll make sure that those get out.
And I always find it entertaining of the legal language that's up here saying, we're going to set out to find any mistakes, but we're really not responsible if we don't find the
Exactly.
mistakes, and so on and so forth. So Trace, this is important because we are, as we as a board are responsible for the fiscal soundness of the, we have a finance office and we have a treasurer, but overall, we are ultimately responsible for the finances of the town. So that's why the audit is clearly something we want to make sure we get back and it's done well. So all in favor of accepting the engagement letter, say aye.
Right.
I think we had
Who seconded the motion? Sorry.
don't remember, did I?
I think it was,
Slide.
It was
I
Jim.
think it was Jim.
Oh, what is Clyde?
Second it,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, Clyde, yeah.
That was like 2 minutes ago. You texted me.
Exactly.
He's looking at the donuts.
You'll have to rewind the tape.
Okay, and the other entertaining piece was the letter to say that the first firm was really a good firm. That was,
Right.
I couldn't figure what that was for a long time. Okay, moving on. We have in our packets and we've received the findings from the architectural firm that we hired to look at Damon Hall and the Rec Center. We had a report back in some months ago, and recently we received an update with that report with pricing information. So this evening, I think we're going to look to John to just step us through at a high level. This, I think, will be the beginning of a fairly rich discussion about how we tackle the findings and use our money prudently to fix things.
Correct. So this is, this is a fairly extensive breakdown of the expected costs for both Damon Hall and the Rec Center. There are significant drainage issues at both buildings. We've had water in the building in the past month or so in the Lister's office. They're running a dehumidifier to air purifier because there's some, just to make sure that there's no damage that's kind of creeping up the wall in terms of mold or what have you. The Rec Center has a crack in the foundation on the backside due to, drainage and water. So the windows, all the ground floor windows on both buildings need to be redone, whether they're replaced or fixed in place. So this report kind of lays it all out for you in a fair amount of detail. So the question for the board is, what do we want to do? Right? It's $900,000 in total in terms of $943,000 for both buildings to do all the work. Or I think we can kind of pick and choose the work that we might want to prioritize with the money that we have available to us now. So I think that's the discussion to be had this evening.
So when are we thinking of doing this?
In the report, they say probably construction season of 25 by the time so it's next summer.
And why so long?
Because here we are in April, they are of the opinion that we would not get somebody for this summer. So just planning out that far.
Well, I have a couple of concrete questions, because
I'm ready.
there's no way in hell these windows are 40 years old, because they were put in after I was town clerk, and that was 30 years ago.
Well, that is very good feedback to have.
And the front steps was poured concrete, not concrete block.
They talk about the steps. I thought that was were the steps at the Rec Center.
I think, well, when they extended the sides of the steps, they poured concrete.
Okay. I
don't think there's any concrete block out there.
Well, whether it's concrete block or not, Clyde, would you agree it's failing?
Well, it was failing when they should have taken the whole thing off when they put the steps in and rebuilt from scratch then.
Yeah.
They do say approximately 40 years old, so they were off by
10 years.
10.
So I think we should do the drainage work as our first step, and both buildings do. One is protect our listers, and two, protect the integrity of the building over at the Rec Center. So that would be my suggestion as far as first steps, is to do that. I disagree with him. I don't see why it's going to take 6 months to get engineering work and so on for drainage.
Right, especially when they lay out
Yeah.
the plan
I
to
mean,
move forward as it is.
Yeah, so,
Some of
because I think the sooner we get that drainage work fixed, the better. And if nothing else, get that done. Because again, at some point, you're gonna get mold in that building, in that room, and then we're really in the straight, so.
that is,
So that would be my suggestion, is just as a starting point, is we just kind of do the foundation kind of stuff, just get the drain process.
Sure. And that also brings us a new sidewalk, which is a tripping hazard right now.
it's an ADA compliance
Yeah.
issue for Damon
Yeah.
Hall.
Furthermore, with the work at the intersection, there's a slight change in drainage at the on the Queechee Road end of this sidewalk on the side of the building. So this proposal, as I read it, would take care of that as well, if there's additional drainage. John, I'm confused on their first page of their memo. The bottom paragraph, once we have the estimate and you and your select board authorize moving forward, JASW will present a proposal for construction documents and construction administration. So there's yet one more step for them to do, should we decide to go forward on exactly what. Okay.
Correct. I think they're giving us the basic proposal, but what they didn't say how they would redo the windows, or what the thickness of they're suggesting taking those 2 timber walls down and replacing them with like a poured concrete retaining wall.
Right.
So I think there's some additional light engineering that would need to be done.
That is the additional engineering cost.
I don't believe it is baked into the proposal.
So so this is an opinion of cost, but if we're just doing drainage hypothetically, so we can do an RFP for engineering and construction services, you can manage the project. We don't need an architect to be our project manager.
Correct.
Now, once we get to the rec center, that might be a totally different story, but,
Right. Tom, I can't answer this because I glanced at it today, but in the Austin Hill Estimating Company that JASW in turn used, did they spell out the actual detail for the drainage?
to be honest with you, I didn't look at it that closely because, again, this is what they commonly call an opinion of probable costs. And so it's just giving us an idea of how much,
Where we are.
in his estimation,
Yeah.
how much it's gonna cost.
Right.
We then go out to bid and we're gonna get the actual cost. And like I said, there is no engineering drawings yet as far as, and maybe there are, we don't see them, but as far as, how much it's gonna cost a drainage pipe and blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So, but to me, I think some of this stuff is fairly simple. It's gonna cause a lot of, sidewalk being torn up and everything else.
Right.
I agree, as long as we have clarity in exactly what the solution is that's implemented. What is the pitch? What's the interaction of these 2 drainage bins? And then what is the connection in the parking lot that kind of goes across the way? And they talk about perforated pipe and so on and so forth. But what I want to be assured of is that we're not going to create another bottleneck before the water actually drains.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope, I'm not skilled in this, so I don't know how to make a choice on a contractor.
So, but it does say here, the drawings have been sent to the cost estimating. We anticipate receiving the estimate after the new year. So there are drawings.
There are.
You guys got them in your packet last year.
But the drawings are of the buildings, not of
It
this.
shows all the changes. When he was online,
Right.
that time at the meeting, at the select board meeting, it
Right.
showed everything that they were doing.
So there are drawings as far as the drainage layout and everything
I don't
else.
remember the drainage.
Correct. We have that. What we don't have are like a spec that we couldn't give a spec sheet to a contractor and say, go and do this, I believe.
But you could get an engineering firm to write the RFP using
Yes.
those drawings.
Yes, that I believe we could do. We're, 80% to,
Right.
we're 80% there, we just need the final step.
I mean, I feel like I'd have to, go put this on the big screen and pull up that other packet and kind of look through it to really get my brain wrapped around it. But I think Tom's right. You kind of have to fix the basics, right? You can't put a new roof on if the foundation is falling apart. But you can't paint the inside of the house either.
Right.
However, by having known ADA issues in both buildings, we leave ourselves exposed to a lawsuit should somebody decide to file us. By having known life safety issues in a building where there's a daycare center, we leave ourselves exposed, God forbid, something just should happen in that building. So I just, like, the rec center is really a big deal in my mind.
So I think there are potentially funding for ADA
Yeah.
related things, so I think we should be looking into that. And this issue is ubiquitous in Vermont.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to sprinkle these old buildings because
Oh,
it's so
no,
damn
yeah,
expensive,
yeah.
so.
And the fact that we would need a storage tank for the water to support the sprinkler, it's just a cascading. But Jim, I share your concern. I worry that we have a cooperative preschool with parents running up those stairs, filled their arms filled with bags and kids to get to the second floor. And the after-school program is extremely successful, but we know from past issues that parents want it needs to be inclusive. And from a disability perspective, it needs to be inclusive. I won't say any more about that. But I think I've been thinking, like all of you, because this has been percolating for us since the ARPA monies were first targeted. Let's get an answer to these two buildings. We need to fix the drainage. I totally agree with you, Jim and Tom. And Jim, I'm very sensitive to the ADA and the access issues and sprinklers from a liability perspective. That part. And third, I know I may be the only person saying this, but the rec center is an important, represents an important building and set of services that we have in town. Trace, you were very involved in the grassroots of this, of getting this whole program started. And you were successful. Here we are. Things have grown. But before we start putting in changing elevators and sprinklers, I really would like to step back and say, we know there are 4 functions for the building: the cooperative nursery, the after-school program, the adult fitness programs, and office space. We know we're in a crunch for office space here. Let's make sure we ask the questions of, are we going to do short-term fixes, or should we do some global, answer that question of where are we going with this? I'm very aware, Martin made it very clear when I first said this, that this is an expensive idea. I'm also aware that we have the Red Barn. We have it's a superstructure. There's nothing in it other than storage. What are we doing with that? Should we be looking at that for potentially creating a subspace in there that would be for office space? Don't know, but we do need to not close our eyes and just look at putting in the sprinkler. I think we need to look at that bigger picture.
Well, it's somewhat a case of how big a Band-Aid are we going to put on an ailing project,
Yeah. And when will that
It's somewhat
Band-Aid fall
like
off?
they used to say about used cars. Maybe you jack up the radiator cap and drive a new car underneath it. Because if you're pouring $1 million into these buildings, well, this one is quite substantial. But that one, are you going to get out of it what you put into it?
Mhm.
You know, I know there'll be a lot of pushback, but
Yeah, whenever you showed that.
Right, so we are pursuing other funding opportunities, like you mentioned. I mean, everything's far from a guarantee. I would say the rec center in particular, from what I've seen, we should be putting these on priority lists for funding, and that is not happening currently. So working with our regional development corporation or, Senator Sanders' office, our legislative offices, to put this on priority lists for future funding. I mean, that puts us years out, potentially. But to do the wholesale fix to the rec center as opposed to the Band-Aid fix, right? What direction does the board want to take?
Mhm. Yeah,
Well, but I guess I take exception, what the architect is suggesting here, these aren't Band-Aids.
Yeah,
He's saying we're gonna fix these buildings, and I think that the discussion is, as I think you started, is we're trying to prioritize all this because we have other capital expenses out there as well. So I certainly won't vote to spend $1 million this year to fix up these two buildings when the Queechee Road is looming and we have culverts and everything else.
Okay.
We're gonna have to do this over time.
Right. Which
So-
brings us to another future agenda item, which is looking at the capital program, all these projects, where it's spread out over time
Yes.
and where the funding could possibly.
Yes.
Martin,
So my friendly suggestion is Damon Hall. I think you should put an RFP out to do the Damon Hall this summer. We have one office that has water leaking into it. We're asking for trouble, we know about it. The rec center, we did the same study in 2018 with the exact same results. Here we are 6 years later and we've done nothing.
Right.
So my suggestion is the water, the sidewalk, making Damon Hall, start at Damon Hall. We have the money to do it.
Right.
Put it together and let's move forward.
Right.
It's been 6 years since we looked at the rec center. We get the exact same, pretty much the exact same results from the two engineers. It's time to move forward. Yes, we have other road issues that we gotta deal with, but the building's more important. Because if mold invades this building, where's the town office?
What I'm suggesting, as I started, is I think we should do the drainage work this year.
So it's just my
Yeah.
2 cents on the project.
And I think we should give direction to our town manager today, because it's middle of March, and you have him do whatever he needs to do, and for next month, come back with us. But I do not want to postpone this till next month as we ponder our navels yet again. I mean, I don't know how much more information we need.
great. Okay, Trace, I know you're brand new to this, but I think you get the gist of what we're talking about. Do you have any thoughts at all?
I do bids and estimates all the time. The chimney here, the repointing means you just take the mortar out of the joints and put new mortar in, and 24,000 sounds a little over the top on that. I would like to see the chimney. I don't know the rest of these things because I haven't seen them visually. I understand about drainage and I know how it works. I know what they do. I know how they put it in. I don't know. You said there was 2 different contracting companies that gave an estimate on this one. Do you have
the rec center?
on the rec
Sure.
center?
No, just engineering.
What is
Just engineering.
just engineering?
Yes.
There weren't bids.
No,
No,
bids,
there's no bids.
So-
No bids have been done.
So this is a bid.
No,
This
This is not a-
is a breakdown of a cost estimate that JASW hired this Austin Hill Estimating to give them the numbers to give back to us.
Basic concept.
To help us get started.
Right, to do some,
I'm
to
assuming
have
you-
this
I'm
discussion.
assuming you wouldn't give them those numbers right there. If you gave it to a
No, you do it on
contractor,
our-
that's what
right.
you're gonna get back plus some. on
Right, no,
top of it.
exactly. We would put out an RFP that says,
That's correct.
here's the drainage work that we need done.
Yeah,
Yeah, give us bids on that. I just to point of clarity, when I said
Well,
Band-Aid, fixes.
you didn't start, I wasn't looking at you.
No, but the question is, like, with the rec center in particular, like, even if we did everything that was in the report, it's still not the building that I think it we want it to potentially be down the road. Right, so we're cobbling it together and making it safe, but it's still not where we want it to be.
Right.
Does this work with, like, if you have a plan of action in place, is your insurance company gonna cover the building so that your liabilities are down just because of the fact that you've signed something to get something in place and get started with it? Does that do anything like that? No, it doesn't. Okay, so where there's
We're at a very high level exploring what the options are.
Mhm.
And I think what we hope is that the fire marshal did not issue an edict saying you need this, you know.
They did not. There was a fire marshal report that was completed for the rec center. It did not say thou shalt sprinkle. It said things like thou shalt put safety doors at the bottom of the stairs and illuminate the exit signs.
Right, yeah, okay. Stacy, you've had your hand up. Is it relevant to?
Yes, well, obviously I haven't seen the report, just a question whether it included work on the vaults, particularly the listers vaults as well. We had an issue with our vaults.
It's mentioned in the original report about the separation, but
Yes,
it's not-
the door is
okay.
slowly
Yeah.
coming undone away from the wall.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that
It's moved enough that
it does raise an interesting issue if if there's movement on that side of the building, how much of that is caused by this moisture in the ground and in that part. So. Okay.
Just a side note, so, you know, we want to move on, but is it worth maybe talking to our lawyer to understand what our legal risk is, right, if we don't deal with the life safety issues, which is the sprinkler system, basically, you know, that we're required to have if we have a daycare center.
Sure. I think there are three things or four things. You know, the elevator, you can't turn a wheelchair around in some of those hallways. We've got the rear stairs that are a problem, and the sprinkler. Oh, and the doors.
I mean, you know, the response
I
is,
think, yeah.
we're glad you're working on a plan that shows intent.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I
There's
think.
community development block grants that you can get for ADA accessibility. So I mean, there's different programs out there.
Mhm.
But like I say, this is throughout the state, because our office gets calls all the time. Fire marshal came by, they want us to do X, Y, and Z. Much poorer communities in this, and they say, we don't have the money. And they can't really make them. All they can do is shut the building down. And they don't generally do that. So I think as long as we're not ignoring it and we're recognizing that we have these issues and we're going to try to address them, I think we're good. And I think probably at some point too, is we probably should put in fire doors and those kinds of things that aren't super expensive.
Fire safety report.
I mean, like water sprinklers in the rec center?
Yeah, they want to sprinkle the rec center.
Yes.
Yeah, they should.
Well,
So should, yes.
coulda, woulda, shoulda, you know.
But
and-
the $265,000 is the estimate that was provided to us to sprinkle that
And that
building.
makes you ADA compliant.
No.
That would not make us, that would not make the building.
But it gets one of the pieces.
No, that's a fire
it's a-
safety.
it's a fire
issue.
safety,
It's not an
it's
ADA.
Right.
issue.
The ADA would be the wheelchair.
Right.
The lifts, the sidewalks.
But also the four corners has to be sprinkled.
Thank you, Martin, for that.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So-
Getting late.
Right.
No, I like them better as acting town manager.
But that might be a debate, right? I thought when I read the original report, it was because that building, you know, it's considered a second floor.
Right.
And I'm not sure if Four Corners is considered a second floor or not, because I don't know if there's anything underneath.
I think it is as well with, because of this entryway. Okay, let's,
Can I,
please, Clyde. Go
a
ahead.
little historical on your office space thing.
Yeah.
If the select board at the time that they built converted the house to the library, had taken the committee's advice to put the town offices down there and build a different library, we wouldn't have the office space problem.
Yeah, and as I
Time off
understand,
history.
some 8 years ago, there was a study on office space So I think like any organization, we're probably pretty good at doing studies and not necessarily making good, hard
I think
decisions.
we should all watch the movie Office.
Down the road, do real well.
Okay. Okay, do we?
I would just, sorry, real quick, one last thing from my perspective. Before, I would like to, on the like next agenda, like capital planning, long-term planning, talking about office space, because I do think it's a valuable discussion to have. Because it's clunky within the town hall.
Right, right. Yeah, and I have a neighbor that's one of the rec teachers, and they tell me, they're turning away students because there's not enough room for space. Okay, so we've had a good starting discussion. I see two options. One, we can ask if we're in agreement with addressing the drainage and in Damon Hall. And second, should we ask the town manager to explore an RFP process? And my hesitation there is, someone's got to determine we have enough information to actually go out for the RFP, that part, and I don't know how to do that in that part. So what's, in general, before we make a motion, are we comfortable with going to, to address the?
I mean, I think you've got to start, right? You've got to button up the building before you do anything else.
Yeah.
So I think it's really items 1 through 4 under Damon Hall. It's not, to me, it sounds like a roof modification for 10 grand with another water issue.
I think what we can do is ask JASW to say, we are talking about going out to bid this construction season, and can you provide us with the necessary documents for us to go out to bid? And if he says no, then we'll say, well, then you need to give us the necessary documents. We'll hire another engineering firm to develop the bid documents for us. I mean,
yeah,
we're not engineers. I mean, we have the list for the quantities for the takeoff, which the contractors are going to use to come up with their bid. But are you? I mean, and I'm not trying to belittle people. Are you really going to question? Oh, well, he says we need 22 feet of drainage pipe PVC 6-inch. Oh no, I think it should be 28 feet. We're not. I mean, we need to trust the people. We're spending a lot of money to develop this stuff for us, and just go.
Yeah, I agree, and you're saying go. You're saying go, Jim. Claude, are you comfortable? And then we'll craft a motion to address the drainage.
That is the key issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wonder if that has some bearing on the vault.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Yeah. So let's get
ask
that.
question as we're doing that.
Yeah.
On that part.
And the other thing I'd like to add is to include the drainage over at the rec center as well. We can have that as 2 separate bids, and we can decide whether or not we want to do the rec center as well for drainage, because it sounds like that's been an issue for a long time, right?
Right. Yeah, and Jim, I didn't look at what's included with those numbers you did.
Yeah, I did that.
Is the skirting around the building included in that? The splash
in that piece. Which are you talking about?
So I was talking about
Are you saying the numbers, the item numbers?
Yeah, you mentioned
So basically what I said is
1,
items 1 through 4 on the
2,
Damon Hall.
3, 4, and stop at 4.
Right.
yeah.
But
Okay.
honestly,
Wait a minute. No, let's. Oh no, I'm sorry. I got to the rec center. Okay. Yep.
so I kind of feel like that's a good step for tonight, right? I wouldn't mind having some more time to read through this.
Okay.
And really kind of digest the rec center stuff. But I think, logically, we've got to, start that project as well, right? But I think we also need to understand the funds that we have available. And that includes the Jennybell culvert, right, because that's part of our ARPA project, the 90,000 on Beachy Road that we're spending. So we'll get I think we need to see the math as well.
Are you suggesting that we just finish the discussion tonight and then come back at the next meeting and actually make a motion to?
I'm fine with the motion. If you guys want to do an RFP on the Damon Hall drainage, those items 1 through 4,
Yeah.
first 4, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
I would support that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, and I think Claude, you're saying
Yeah.
you're comfortable. Okay, Tom, you're shaking your head, yes?
I just don't know why we wouldn't want to include the drainage. While we have a contractor here, you're not gonna get move charges
For the rec center.
for the rec center as well, but we don't necessarily have to accept it, but just start the process.
But that's fine.
You
So,
know, that's all.
I agree. Okay,
Bidding process.
yeah,
It'd be
Yeah.
247,000 using their numbers
Right.
for the drainage at both sites.
Together, both sides.
Does that include the retaining wall over there?
That was item 5 under the rec center, which it just lumped it all
Oh,
together.
yeah.
Comment,
yes,
talking about committees and the recommendations. The committee that was formed, which I was on, for the house that was purchased down there, that we ended up reselling.
Mhm.
One of the safety recommendations from the committee was to change the directions of going into the
Right.
rec center. And that hasn't been done yet because of the drainage that needed to be addressed. It didn't make sense to make all these changes and come back and rip this all up. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
For safety,
Yeah.
to change, if it gets done, to change the direction of the committee.
Yeah.
Recommended.
I think we are on the same page that we're trying not to do something in isolation of all the other bigger problems that are there. Okay, I would look for a motion to somehow say what we just said. Which is.
I
really
make a
encouraging you
motion
to
that
get
we
started.
direct the town manager to talk with our consultant to see if the firm can develop the necessary documents for us to go out to bid no later than the end of April. For the drainage work as identified in the study for the rec center and for Martin and for Damon Hall. So in Damon Hall, the scope we have is items 1, 2, 3, and 4. For the rec center, it is item number 5.
One second.
Okay, there's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Sorry if I was pushing.
No, I think there's a natural hesitation because there's a big price tag. And I'm excited to get going on something that's been very, very troublesome for us. So
It also helps, you hire, when you get the engineer here and you can walk outside with the engineer and they're gonna show you everything. I mean, Trace knows all this. I mean, it just helps a lot.
Yeah, walkthrough would be great.
yeah, I just want to clarify, Martin and John, do we actually have things like the video that was done by Stearns on the drainage? Do we have that as a report?
Yes.
So should JASW not want to play ball with us anymore because we're not doing the whole thing, we're okay. We have enough information to go out and on.
You
Okay.
get the blueprints on your table.
Okay. Okay. If we're finished, then let's move on to the Eshqua bog and the tax exemption aspect of this, which was a surprise to me. I didn't know anything about it.
Sure. So there was an update after the packets were mailed out, which, so Stacy had brought it to our attention that the tax exemption for Eshqua Bog had expired because it was originally voted on in 2019 for 5 years. We didn't catch it in time, and so after town meeting, there was no action. We were supposed to start taxing the Nature Conservancy for the bog. We did, Stacy managed to talk with the state. We do have a 1-year extension of the exemption for the property. So now we have time to take action.
Do we have to do this in 5-year increments? Oh, we do.
Yes.
But what is the task? Is the task to put it in front of the voters?
They would need to go back on the town warning in 2025 to exempt that parcel of land from property taxes for another 5 years.
What would the taxable amount be on that person?
That is
110,000.
How many acres?
40.8 acres.
And how much in taxes do they have to pay?
10, because it's on a building site.
110,800. Yeah.
Well, that's the assessed value.
It's the assessed value. It's a wetland.
So,
So their taxes are $10,000 like on a wetland that they can't.
You have talked to a woman in the back there. I'm out of my,
I didn't bring that stuff with me. Is that the assessed value, 110,000?
yeah,
So your list value is, then $1,108 times the tax rate. The tax rate for, it's non-homestead. So,
do you want me to look up the bill, the tax bill?
well, we don't have to do it.
You have the tax bill there?
Yes.
I don't know if that gives you the breakout of what the,
I'll look it up.
well, what is the non-homestead tax rate on there?
It doesn't show.
It doesn't show.
Oh, because it's not.
Okay, so it says 40.8 acres with 110,800.
With a lot of zeros.
Are we allowed to exempt the school tax or just the town tax?
I believe when we're voting on it, we're exempting both pieces. It's like a tax agreement when you're voting on it. And it is one that fits under that statutory exemption. So what we are voting to exempt is the taxes for that property, meaning that the rest of the taxpayers in town pick up that tax bill.
Right.
It's distributed to the rest of the taxpayers.
is anyone aware, within the last couple of years, the Conservation Commission was working with the Conservancy either to conserve more land in the area or to have a declaration that more of it was a bog or less was a bog. But there's a lot of activity that they were working on, and I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I think we need to clarify, so if we have time to do that now, of some of those questions. Who the heck is the Native Plant Trust?
The co-owner
Co-owner.
of that property with the Nature Conservancy. I don't know much more about it than that.
Yeah,
For whatever reason, they had applied for full statutory exemption previously, way back in the 2000s. I remember looking this up, and it was not given a full statutory exemption like a church or the American Legion. Didn't qualify, but this would be other way to.
I remember this from town meeting. This was quite the discussion.
was it?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
I've looked at the signs that are up there, and they actually allow hunting, which is far better than current use. So I don't think you're gonna have a problem with the locals
No,
paying
people
the
love that
taxes
place.
on that property that's keeping it from being built. Is there any stipulations about future development or anything like that in there?
No,
Nothing?
Zippo.
Is that,
It doesn't show up.
so that's an issue. So like, in other words, they're gonna use us to be,
You could probably see what the
Exempt from
original
taxes.
agreement was, if you could ever.
and
find
then
it.
turn around and
track it
develop it,
down,
but it's a
right.
Yeah.
wetland, right?
Yeah.
And all the things that they say are in that wetland shouldn't be built on. Right?
A lot of the land's as steep as the piece Conrad sold, so.
Yeah, geez.
And rocky.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing we need to do tonight.
There's,
We got
no,
it,
there
right?
was
Right.
there was going to be action needed, but
Okay.
as of now, because we got that after after the package had been mailed out. Phil, to your point, only if the additional parcels have been acquired surrounding, abutting the property would the tax exemption be greater, right? We're still talking about the same parcel of land.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that tell you what the actual bill for that land is?
No, they just tell you what the.
Of course not.
Great. So from our lister, the taxes would be about $2,800 that we are exempting every year, approximately.
You know, it is people know of the bog and come to Hartland to see it, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people visit that bog. A lot of people hunt in there too.
On the uphill side?
Let's put up a toll booth.
That goes down very
So this is on the radar for next year's town warning already, because it would have to be, they'd have to go back on the warning as an article to be voted on, and that's already been flagged by us internally.
Yeah, and I wonder who will be the next, what you call what Dean Greenberg and his wife were doing. They were the stewards or the hosts, I guess. Yeah. So I hope we get another person to look after it. Okay, moving on to the town manager's update.
Okay.
And John, did you need this back?
No, you can keep that. Yeah. So a few things. You may have noticed it snowed last weekend. You might have heard from folks. So one of the things that came out of that was that we should probably look at updating our snow policy in town. It's fairly light touch and talks about how we're going to approach snow as if all snow were the same. And I don't think we want to get into very fine detail, but you know, this past storm was problematic, right? It was really soft underneath, especially on Sunday. Folks didn't get out and plow because it was soft, and so it created some slippery and hazardous conditions for folks, especially in the higher elevations. So we might want to look at updating the policy to address how we are approaching those type of events, or the non-traditional snow events. So there's that.
Is there a recommendation?
There's no recommendation. This has been, you know, kind of an ongoing discussion all week. Most of the week, I should say. We did just.
Are you on the same topic, or are you guys?
No, well, I don't know if Clyde, you wanted to talk about your photos at this point?
Well, I just took some pictures, and we had, up until yesterday, we only had a one-lane road in Jennyville from Bill Donahue's up. And finally warmed up enough so that you could meet cars there, and any low car drive. And I just wonder how West Windsor managed to plow their roads with trucks, and we couldn't, our grader wasn't out moving snow, was it?
Not that, it was taking down some of the center ridges, is my understanding, as when it was cool enough for them to get out there without further damaging the road. They were out there with the smaller trucks and the grader.
So I would wonder if it's worth reaching out to West Windsor to find out if they have a policy.
Sure. Yeah, so.
You know, does the city? Yeah. There was a
They just
significant
plow when it
difference.
snows, that's what they do, because they're not afraid of their roads, but I can see why they'd be a little nervous about our roads, because they're not taken care of to start with, so. If they're worried about taking a truck full of sand on the road with the weight on it sinking into the road, I think they should be working on repairing them before wintertime comes along and cleaning the culverts out so the water doesn't get into the roads to start with. So it's like a snowball. So that wasn't done because of the flooding. And so you have to give the guys a little bit of a break on that. The roads are not in great condition. The floods took place late in the fall. They didn't have a chance to fix them because they just kept flooding, and they're still flooding to this point. It's flooded again in January. So
And we had 2 mud seasons in
we
December.
got 2
Yeah,
months
right,
in
right, that's
December. I mean, it's been pretty rough, but the decision not to plow when there was a foot of snow in Densmore, you know, there's and the population's increased.
Right.
There's a lot of more elderly people out on those roads that that 20 years ago would have been, it'd have been fine. But now there's a lot more development, a lot more people, and so the rule does have to change, and they do need to plow.
Right, so that's why,
So how does that work on a weekend? Is it just the town highway manager?
The road foreman would make the call to.
Makes the call.
Correct. Correct.
Because there's always, there's always all kinds of rumors floating around, but are they worried about overtime hours?
We are not, they have been given the okay to work if there's work that needs to be done.
Has anybody ever told them not to plow because of overtime hours?
Not in the 5 weeks that I've been here.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to clarify that.
No, it's not.
I said I don't care about overtime.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with, the road needs to be plowed because that's for the
Right.
safety of the people that live in the
So
town.
it's
that
just
pay
the
taxes.
judgment that the roads are too soft and they feel that they'll create more damage.
Yeah,
That
that
is
was their.
We were the only town that did not plow.
Right.
So,
Right, but the other towns that didn't plow only had like 4 inches of snow.
no, some will plow also, no.
Well, I did note on Facebook that the Weathersfield town manager pointed out they plowed the blacktop and the grader was working as hard as it could to clear the the dirt road.
The dirt roads and the
Well-
graders.
Well, then I did use Weathersfield as an example when people would say,
How much snow did you get?
We had about four. We had about four.
That's
at
But they're
my
closer to the
elevation.
Connecticut River.
Yeah,
you know?
there's a little bit.
It's
more.
when you get up in the hinterland.
Yeah, yeah. you
It's
get
the banana
elevation.
belt down there. It's
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, it's very different.
It is.
And then I had another inch and a half that
Right. And
Saturday night or Sunday night, whatever was the second night of it. Yeah, I do want to point out that, Trace, I would hope you would agree with this. Since the committee sent recommendations to the board some years ago on maintaining the roads, we extended the small amount that we're paving, but we also increased the hard pack budget and we started putting more hard pack. And Draper Road, when you came in from the Quechee Road and begin to drop down toward Ellison, it was notorious for, you were lucky to get out the other side, regardless of how many wheel drive you had or chains. And that's actually much better right now. So the hard pack is making a
Is it working?
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we need more? Certainly do. And I'm also, I'm concerned, like it's been voiced, that we just have a more mobile set of citizens. They want these services and it's hard. So, we've got to get out there.
Yep. And that's, I think this storm really highlighted that.
Learning experience.
Yeah.
I did notice tonight coming down, it appeared they spread some crushed gravel on Jennyville, which I wonder when they were saying, when we had the problem with Hartland Hill and they dumped so much hard pack in, that maybe crushed gravel was a base and then hard pack it afterwards, because I'm sure crushed gravel is cheaper than hard pack.
Sure, but I can remember the time they put on, like 1 inch stone, and I thought for sure I was gonna just cut my tires.
Oh, I had flat tires from that.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any consolation, somebody pointed out to me, yes, Heartland roads are worse than West Windsor, but they're better than Woodstock, so.
There we go, there we go.
So hard pack is not as permeable as crushed stone is. So what's happening is, the roads were built with dirt, they were added this material and that material. I mean, it's been going on forever. And they just keep adding to it, right? They're not adding drainage. And so the water's sitting underneath the road, and every time a rig hits it, it vibrates the water up to the top of the surface. And so hard pack will keep it down and it'll keep water from the surface coming down in, but it's not taking out anything happening laterally.
Sure, as soon as it freezes and it freezes that deep, then it's a barrier almost to come back up.
But it does, I mean, if it's working and.
Well, I think we need to continue to be vigilant about ways to improve our roads.
So,
And
what I heard of this is we're gonna have a new policy recommendation.
Yeah.
Right.
Or plowing.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's the first step. And I think John has been very conscious of the importance of the roads. So We will stay tuned.
Right, yeah, yes, stay tuned.
Because if nothing else, that's something we all get stopped about and asked about.
Right.
But there's one more thing, there's, I mean, but there's other conditions. I mean, this doesn't just happen like this is gonna snow 4 to 12 inches, it might rain, sleet. There's always gonna be those variables that are thrown out. So just taking care of the roads, this throwing up a white flag and saying, no, we're not gonna plow the roads because there's too much snow out there. That's just not acceptable. It's just not acceptable.
Yeah, so I think there's two things, right? We should update our winter maintenance policy to address the snow. And whether we should also look at like a road maintenance policy as well. Updating that independently, because it's, to talk about drainage and other things.
How many trucks do we have?
It depends on the day in which you ask us that question.
Let's just pretend we didn't have an accident last fall.
We had another accident?
Well, that's update number 9, highway trucks.
We're only at number 1.
Exactly. I'll jump around for you. I don't know the total number of trucks off my head.
What about those Toyota trucks?
2 10-wheelers, 2 6-wheelers.
Yeah.
A 550.
Yeah.
A 1-ton Chevy. And I think that's it.
That's 6 trucks.
6 trucks.
How many guys?
Six
were
trucks.
That sounds right.
How many-
Okay.
how many
6.
guys?
Oh, and an F-250 for the buildings and grounds.
6.
Was 6 highway?
Yeah.
Not 5?
Bill, BJ.
And the grader.
Zach,
Don't forget the
Eric.
grader.
Grader, bucket
Because
loader,
Roy,
back.
6.
Also
6.
plow on the loader.
There's a plow on the.
BJ's
loader.
back.
BJ's back.
BJ is back.
BJ.
You're not counting Rob.
We
No, I
got,
was not counting.
we got the 6-wheeler back and the 10-wheeler in the shop.
And that grader is 6-wheel drive. Like it can plow on a
I
snow
don't
day.
know, I don't know anything about the grader. I know we have a road grader.
But
That's all.
the road grader is it, the question is, does the road grader, can it plow in a snowstorm when there's 12 inches of slush or soft roads? Because it's wider and longer. I mean, it might take longer for that to move along the road, but they don't have to put the blade all the way down because it's built for those kind of things. It's articulated. So
Right.
it's not like it's a big truck with a lot of weight on the back and it's gonna sink in. So, I mean, I think it sounds to me like somebody made a call. They just said, you know what, it's too soft. We're not gonna plow. And then, but the problem is they just didn't get up the next day and go fix it. They let it go for while it was freezing because the temperatures dropped. Then you have like a pile of ice in the middle of the road that nobody could travel through. So that could have been graded, that could have been plowed. I'm amazed that somebody didn't turn around and say, okay, now it's time to plow.
So we
Just
did,
let it go.
right, they did try to
2
get out
days.
there after it was frozen to take that ridge off the center of the road, because we did get more than a few notices from folks that it was an issue.
I guess they skipped our end of town.
Yeah.
Well, so, right. So I think that this is the issue that we need to address through a maintenance policy and kind of some ongoing, as we're seeing a change in snow, right? We don't get those nice fluffy snowstorms anymore as much as we might want them.
Emergency services too.
Right.
It's gotta be, those fire engines.
You said there's a lot of elderly people that live out there in that.
Right. So we can keep talking about the highway, but
Can I
Yes,
just
I
make
think we
a
beat
comment
this one.
to Sherry's point? This is not on the town roads, I won't comment on that. But to her point with emergency services, I had to call, I live on Route 12, I had to call 911. It was 1 o'clock in the morning that night. The state had not come through at all. I called 911, I waited 15 minutes. Our power line arced and caught a tree on fire over our house. I waited 15 minutes and nobody came. So I called back, they couldn't get through because the roads were not touched and because there were trees down in the road. They had to drive around and come through Route 4 to get to my house.
Route 12.
to be a state road.
If they plow, I mean, does the
It's the
town? is
state,
totally-
not
The state
in charge of
the
the plow.
state plows,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
the state.
that's a state issue.
Right,
Correct.
right,
So
I'm
I-
just making a comment to Sherry's point that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Emergency
It's-
vehicle's gotta get through.
yeah.
Yep.
The
it's-
state
it's-
didn't plow as long, and the town didn't plow.
Exactly. There was something to be desired.
Does the town ever plow that? Do they?
No,
need to?
we
don't
I was
plow.
gonna say, they don't
We don't
plow.
plow.
State road.
We don't plow state roads.
No,
Absolutely.
no.
Probably can't.
Moving on, John.
Yes.
Moving
please,
on.
Move on.
Highway trucks. So it came up. We have one of them is back. We got truck 14 back. One of the 6-wheelers is back from the shop. We expect another with a F-550 coming back at the end of the month. The parts are coming in a few days, so we should have that back at the end of the month. However, today we did take another truck, another one of the 6-wheelers to the shop.
10-wheeler.
10-wheeler, because it won't shift anymore. So we're
Is this the all-wheel drive thing?
no. So we're even. We got one, we lost one is coming soon.
So how many do we have in service?
In service, just that,
You're down 2, so you got 4 trucks.
right?
4 out of 6.
Yes.
Yes. Did you have a question?
I'll just wait. for
Okay.
Time and place.
Okay. Sticking with roads, we did get a striping grant from V-Trans to do striping on some of the aprons. So that'll be forthcoming this summer. It's $26,000. So expect to see some road painting being done. It was a bit of a surprise to everybody in town that this grant came through. It was a bit of a mystery. We had to track down its origin, but so that is happening. On sticking with roads, Pathways was here last week. They did an initial assessment, marking some of the spots on the Queechee Road where they want to do borings. That's happening in the next couple of weeks. They expect, so we'll have the contractor out there doing borings. So they will have flaggers out there on either end of them, but there will be a slowdown, when they're here for those 2 days. Our engineer for the North Hartland Bridge, the southern North Hartland Bridge, met with the builder last week to talk about the exact species of wood that were used. All of that will come into play when he does his report in terms of a final load rating for that bridge. So that is all happening. We have
Can I ask an unrelated bridge question?
Sure.
As I drive down Brownsville Road, right, I noticed that the signs at the bridge, well, 2 bridges, say emergency weight limits. And I don't know if I've just never seen those signs before.
I don't know that I've ever seen one.
So I'm curious as to, do we really have an emergency weight limit on those bridges? And was there some failure from the floods that we're not aware of? Or, does somebody have extra signs?
Is this the bridge by Jennyville?
Yeah, well, so you take the left, the
Yeah,
2 corners and
yeah.
just drive down Brownsville Road, you'll see as you cross.
Yeah, I know that,
Bridges
yeah.
that cross the brook.
Yeah.
You'll see a sign that says emergency weight limits.
I'm always looking at the stream, see how high it is. That's time I don't see the sign.
Where are the fish?
Shouldn't we all be looking at the road while we're driving?
So
you
who put it
married?
up? I was just, when I saw them, I'm like, is this a problem? Does that mean this bridge is no longer safe?
Who put that up there?
That is a good question. I didn't know. I will track down an answer and get back to you all because I don't know that those signs went up.
But that's,
Power, do they do it because they have to carry all this heavy equipment across those bridges?
Oh, that's a good question.
They're probably put holes in up to that gap over the top of.
Remount Power's got big trucks coming over those bridges.
They might have done that just so they could get across the bridge without getting.
I'll track down and get an answer for you. I don't know. One last road related issue. The Jennyville Culvert bid opening is scheduled for the 29th. So we had a pre-bid meeting last week with Otter Creek Engineering. We had 10 contractors in the room. So a pretty good selection of folks who came to get more information. They followed up with a site visit out there to better understand on the ground conditions.
Getting hungry.
So there is an Phil stole my thunder and sent out the VLCT training that's coming for board members. So for new select board members, it's on the 23rd at Lake Maury. It'd be good for folks if you new members as a refresher for folks who've been on the board for a long time, just a select board roles and responsibilities training. It's select board essentials, your building blocks for success. So if you're available, I would encourage folks to attend.
That's this weekend.
That is this weekend.
That's what surprised me when I saw it. That's why I sent it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pre-registered to go, isn't it?
By Friday, you have to
Yeah.
pre-register.
You do.
Or on end of the day Friday.
It is not. It's
Email.
yeah.
You probably don't have.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I can send more information if you would like it.
I'm the new guy, it's all
But
right.
they sometimes do, recorded trainings or.
They may post this, yeah, they post some of their trainings online as recordings.
Jim, this one is not, there's no Zoom for this one. They said they would record it, but at least according to the site that I looked today.
I'm sorry. That culvert, that's not a historic culvert.
It is not,
A historic culvert.
it is
It's
not a historic culvert.
It's not.
We
Isn't.
agreed, there was a lot of back and forth last week on this conversation. It is not a historic culvert.
Thank
And
you.
That problem has
neither is
been.
And neither is the one at the bottom of Jenny.
Densmore.
Hill.
Correct, we're all in agreement.
People come out.
They-
I have looked right into
they-
those culverts. We are in agreement. It
They
is
look
not
nice,
historic.
they're not historic.
No.
There's one other thing, the pizza oven committee is looking to do a little bit of work. They want to add a second table off the other side of the oven. And then they also want to add a chimney. It's town property, the farmer's market owns the structure. So just as a,
The first table they added seems to be just fine.
correct, it
And
is.
I see them use it all the time. I don't know what to think about the chimney. Where would they would have to,
It's gonna go straight up through the top of the building. They have to put a small bend in it. But it's to prevent I guess there's been some, the oven's really hot and this will eliminate some of that. And also sometimes when the doors open, people can get a little,
probably,
a quick flash.
When you open the evaporator door, does it?
So,
Yes.
so that's out there.
so you're not asking for, you're
Just putting it on your radar.
Announcement.
Yep, because there's more work coming with the pizza oven as well.
Where is that?
In Foster Meadows, yeah, right in front of the library there. And then we can talk about, that's it for me, because we can talk about the cemetery under future agenda items, if you'd like.
Yeah, let's get going.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk, so there's been an ongoing conversation for a long time about mapping out the cemeteries in town. We've reached out to a few folks. I did get a walk-in maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago from a local resident who was willing and able to do the work. So if we want to proceed, we can try, to get bids from everybody, or we can just proceed with the local resident who's interested and able to do the work.
His initials might not be DC, would they?
They very much are, in fact.
How much are they thinking?
It's unknown because we don't know where to start, right? We know that this is an issue. Folks want to be buried in the local cemeteries. Which cemeteries do we prioritize? Are we talking 10, 15, 50? What are we looking for?
Yeah, and John, I know some of my colleagues here are very passionate about getting this done, but I want to make sure that we understand what we're getting and then how do we maintain it and how do we store this information and we don't have a position in place to sort of maintain all this information.
It would be a snapshot in time, right? It would be accurate as of, June 1, 2024.
Right. And then somehow we would update it should people start to go in there.
Correct.
Help refresh my memory. Did we previously do a motion for a pilot project, pick a cemetery, do the analysis? I thought that we had, sometime after your guest came and talked to us, that we decided we were gonna do a pilot.
I think we did. I don't think we put any money to it, but I think, Phil, your question, we can certainly ask Bruce to come back and he can let you know how the town of Cavendish does it, but I'm sure that for towns that do have cemetery, sextons, whatever, there's gotta be a process.
Right.
Right.
Make sure how you do it. I will be, if John is willing to nudge me, I will try to get the cemetery committee together and to talk about this and get a recommendation
That
from
would be
the
great.
cemetery committee as far as what cemeteries they think would be the best for a pilot.
I can do that.
And we're not talking about a lot of,
There should be,
Yeah, but you gotta get this done. I don't know how much time I have left.
there should be a pretty good sized plot up in the center cemetery,
I would think so.
from where the original church sat in the northwest corner.
I want to talk to Dan Moranci and, you know, his mother and
Sure.
others that, I think Bob Bibby knows a lot about this.
I'm smiling. I just finished watching 6 Feet Under, which is great. If you haven't, if you're looking for something to watch for on Netflix, multiple seasons. So anyway, your comment made me think. of it.
Okay.
That's not it.
That's it for me. That's all I have.
Okay, we have some correspondence. Green Mountain Power just sent us a notice that they are officially starting on the, what's it called?
It is the
The main feeder line coming in from
The
Chatsville.
46 kV transmission line from the Tapsville substation to the substation in the towns of Woodstock, Windsor, and Hartland. This is the letter that came in
Yeah.
just this morning.
Green Mountain Power, over the last 2 years, has stopped and to show us what they were doing. There's not a lot of impact. I think it's just a courtesy. I was out that way this morning, and they certainly are.
Is that part of what they're
Stage.
doing off the Brownsville Heartland Road?
Yeah.
That's the transmit, that main line there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool equipment they got.
That's why I was saying they're really heavy pieces of equipment. That's probably why they.
I think-
Why they
I think
posted
that's
those
what it
bridges.
is.
You know,
Yeah.
they're actually
Yeah.
laying
Those reels
a
of wire.
temporary road down.
I want to drive that crawler.
Along Route 12, we're actually laying
think that's a bad idea.
railroad ties, if you can call them that, down to protect, to get through the area. Okay. We already talked about Clyde's handout. Is there any other questions?
No other correspondence.
So I think we have one other piece of correspondence in our packet.
Yes,
Correct.
and we have an executive session to deal with that.
But what we first have to do is, I'd like to make a motion that this piece of correspondence contains somebody's personal financial information. It's not subject to public record inspection. And I'd like to make a motion according to 1 V.S.A. 317C7 that this is a document that is not subject to public inspection.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Clyde. All in favor, say aye.
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 So then,
Okay, let's just take a few minute break.
so based on that,
Oh, yes,
so part two is, now that we know this document is not subject to public inspection, I make a motion that we review it in executive session pursuant to 1 V.S.A. 313A6.
is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 You're doing great at doing Borough Roads.
There will be
Got
an
sidetracked.
action. when we return. So let's take a 2 minute, 5 minute, 3 minute break.
Trying to. Okay, so
Okay,
now we're back.
we're back.
Motion to come out of executive. do
Yeah,
that.
we'll make a motion to return to open meeting.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I would like to make a motion that we approve a Merritt Campbell request in the amount of $1,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a motion to adjourn.
So